Hey guys, what's up? It is mp4podcast.com, bringing you guys some of the most interesting video game news that you guys really do need to know about. Now, Jaffe, the guy behind God of War, and he also worked on the newest Twisted Metal for the PlayStation 3, has stepped in and said some nice things about Iwata, which I will quote, and I'll also be leaving a link in the description box so you guys can check it out yourself. Now, Jaffe says, calling for Iwata to step down, miss sight of what makes Nintendo great. You never get the Wii-type success if you didn't allow a guy like Iwata to fail hard as well. Now, he has a really good point. I mean, a lot of people go into business and sometimes they fail and then they try it again and then they're very, very successful. You're going to have your fails and you're going to have your wins. It's just the way things work out. I mean, as long as you keep on trying, eventually something's probably going to fall in your lap that does work for you. However, I do feel that there was some marketing problems even with the original Wii. Now, one of the problems with the original Wii is that when people saw the motion control, they're like, this is so fun. A lot of grandmas went out and bought the Wii, and a lot of old people were playing. I mean, the bowling was great. Don't get me wrong. It was really good. I mean, I've heard so many great stories about old age homes who got the Wii to get old people up and moving. Those are great things. However, what happened with the Wii was a lot of people got bored after a while. Well, I don't want to really say bored. They probably got tired. You know, I remember seeing, I can't remember the Apollo from the Rocky movies. I can't remember his name, his real name. But then the Russian guy from the Rocky movie, Dolph Lundgren, him and Apollo were having a boxing match on the Wii U. And Dolph Lundgren actually said that the boxing game, why am I saying the Wii U? I'm just so used to it. The original Wii, which came out in 2006, there was a great workout. And I've also heard people who played Zelda and some of these other games on the Wii that their arms do get tired after swinging them around. Now, Nintendo did come out and say, hey, you don't really have to swing your arms around like that. You can just do little small motions. But people, you know, their body just wants to move a lot more than what it should move to control these characters. It's almost like when you're playing the old 8-bit Nintendos or the Sonics. I mean, you have the controllers in your hand, and sometimes you stop moving the controller, and you know the controller doesn't do anything when you move the controller. I mean, we were doing this back in the 8-bit days and so on. So I kind of feel that Nintendo should have remarketed the Wii just a little bit to keep interest in people always playing the original Wii. Don't get me wrong, Nintendo always sold a lot of Nintendo software, but it did fall a little bit short, well, a lot short, when it came to third-party titles. A lot of people didn't play on the Wii when they were buying these games. And there's so many great games for the original Wii. Mad World, House of the Dead, I can't remember. There was a shooter by Sega. I can't, it's slipping my mind right now. Conduit, that's the name of it. There were a lot of great games for the original Wii. But a lot of people just didn't want to do that motion control all the time. And that's why I feel that the Wii took a dip in third-party software sales and people playing the Wii over a long period of time. Now, I think what they should have done with the original Wii was put in the classic controller. When you bought your Wii, you should have got the motion control and the classic control. And when the classic Pro controller, whatever they call that, I actually have one of those, they should have bundled that with the original Wii. That would have given people, right out of the gate, an option how they wanted to play their games. Motion or classic. You didn't have to go and buy another controller. We all know that third-party stuff does not sell that well that much. I think the number one third-party accessory of all time, you know, counting every single console, is the Kinect for the Xbox 360. But I want to say this about Iwata. You know, he screwed up, or his team screwed up with the Wii. I feel that the Wii U, it's a good console. You know, it has a lot of good games. I enjoy playing on it. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's a fun console to play. However, it came at a cost of the hardware not being able to keep up with the next generation consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Now, there's something else I do want to talk upon. A lot of people say the Wii U is not as hard as people say it is a program for. I think the word hard is the wrong word to use when talking about some of these architectures, and I've been guilty of this myself. However, I kind of feel in some ways I'm right, in some ways I'm wrong. So let me explain what I'm talking about. All right, the Wii U is a Power PC architecture. So it has, I believe, it has a North Bridge and a South Bridge architecture, very similar to x86. Now, from what people have said, the CPU is a little bit on the weak side, but it makes up for it on the GPU side. And the RAM is a little bit slower than what's in the 360 and the PS3. However, I've also heard programmers say the RAM is not really that big of an issue. So on, it's more of the CPU, but the GPU can do some of the stuff that you make up for the weaker CPU. So the Power PC, it's very similar to a Mac. However, what I want to say is, when a programmer has to write an extra paragraph or so to say, hey, you have to take this data and send it over to the GPU, that's when, when people are porting games, it takes more time to write that code. It's not hard, it's just more stuff you have to do. For instance, if I'm making a really nice video here on YouTube, and, right now I'm just talking in Camtasia Studio. I'm not really making it an amazing video. I'm just talking over some gameplay. But just hear me out. Just give you guys an example. Let's say I want to talk into Adobe Premiere and I want to make my video a little bit more amazing and so on. I can do fade-ins, fade-outs, put sound effects in there and so on. It's not harder. It's just more work, clicking on the mouse I have to do. So I know that's kind of a bad example, but that's where I kind of see where the Wii U is. It's kind of in that situation where it's not really harder to program for, but it just takes more steps to get what you want out of the system. Now the PlayStation 3, yes, that system was harder to program for. That was a completely different architecture than anybody has ever used. So that's really falls upon Sony, and that's why Sony is going x86 right now. Now, I do feel that where Iwata kind of screwed up with the Wii U was with, we had this iPad craze that was going on for so strong. It started out with the iPhone, the iPad, and it just started building up so much momentum. And I thought, they're looking at this and they're saying, hey, we have to implement this into the next generation video game console. And, hey, they took a shot. It doesn't seem like it's panning out that much. Hopefully the Wii U can bring us some great games. I'm really, really looking for the game X from Monolithic Studios. I can't say that correctly. But that is a game that looks like, it's just worth to own a Wii U just for that one game. I don't care what people say, it's not worth it to own it for one game. That is going to be an RPG that will blow your mind, okay? Forget about Square Enix and, all these other RPGs coming out. X is going to be the RPG, the JRPG that you're going to want to play. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be other great RPGs, but that one really does look very unique. If you're into sci-fi, great anime, that's the game you want to play. Now, if I was building the Wii U, what I would have done, I would have taken the tablet out. I've said this multiple times. I would have taken that extra money and beefed up the Wii U. If it has to stay Power PC, then so be it. But there is one thing that I do want to say about Power PC chips. They do get hot. They get very hot. And just for proof, the Xbox 360 is Power PC, and that thing overheats. So Nintendo, we all heard the stories that they had to lower the clock speed to get that heat down. Also, when you look at MacBooks or whatever they used to call them, the Apple laptops, they only went to G4. They never went to G5 Power PCs because they got too hot. And even some of the iMacs, I think they used to call them iMacs back then, those had G5 PowerPC G5 chips in there, and those boards were burning out. Apple replaced them, of course, for free. Apple's really good at replacing broken stuff all the time. But I mean, that's just a sad fact about PowerPC chips, that they do get hot, and you know, you do have to wait until those diodes start to shrink down, so you don't have those heat problems. But you know, I think Nintendo is going to wake up, and I think their next console is really going to blow people away. And maybe, you know, the tablet controller is going to work out really good for the next Nintendo console. And the reason why I say that, because that tablet controller is going to be very, very cheap to manufacture when the next Nintendo controller comes out. So we'll have the tablet controller, we'll have a Pro controller, we'll have the motion controls on a really high-powered Nintendo console. I think Nintendo knows that they have to bring a balance now with graphics. There's too many people out today who are gaming on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and people are starting to see the difference between different consoles. A lot of parents, they play on their Xboxes and their PlayStations, and their children see what dad and mom are playing, and then they want to play that. So a little bit of that nostalgia factor is moving away from Nintendo. I'm not saying Nintendo is making bad games at all. I'm just saying that kids who grew up on the 8-bit are now adults, and they're playing Call of Duty, Battlefield, they're playing these other games, and their children want to play what they're playing sometimes. Now, I'm not saying those games are always the right games for children to play, but I'm just saying children are seeing parents play games that have much more advanced graphics. So, let me just say this. Let's say you could have a next generation Mario with the power of a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. That's where Nintendo has to be. Also, you know, if the Wii U came out like this year or next year, they could have went x86 and went with those AMD chips, those mobile processors that are, you know, next gen, and they're not as powerful i7 processors. However, they probably could have made a very small console. I mean, the PlayStation 4, it really isn't that big. It's about the size of a PlayStation 3 Slim. If you haven't gone to the store to see a PlayStation 4, it's about the size of a PlayStation Slim, the first version of the PlayStation 3 Slim. But anyway, guys, this has been mp4podcast.com. I hope you enjoyed this commentary. If you guys want to help me out for a second, just give me that like. It does help out the video a lot. If you guys have any questions and want to add to the conversation, please leave a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to interact with you. Once again, guys, this is mp4podcast.com. Sign out. You guys have yourself an awesome day.